Chaos, clashes, carnage, rioting. These words have been used to describe what happened in America. The truth is, none of them suffice. Words are not enough to describe what the world saw. America's seat of power was under siege. This is what happened in Washington, D.C. A violent mob of thousands of people attacked the U.S. Capitol, egged on by the outgoing President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. What happened in Washington, D.C. was an assault on democracy, an attack on the peaceful transition of power, and an attempt to overturn the will of the people. Let's tell you how it unfolded. It started here. Around 1 p.m. local time, thousands of Trump supporters had gathered in Washington, D.C. It was a big day at the U.S. Congress. That's America's parliament, the U.S. Congress. It was supposed to confirm Joe Biden's victory. Lawmakers were about to certify the election result. But outside that building, Team Trump was instigating the supporters, telling them that the election has been stolen from President Trump. The fact is that there is no evidence of voter fraud in the U.S. Trump has lost some 60 legal cases challenging the result. He's lost all of them in courts. But his team keeps repeating the same lies. Yesterday, they went one step further. Speaking to the crowd, Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, demanded, and these are his words, trial by combat. Trump's oldest son, Donald Trump Jr., said the Republicans are not fighting for his father. Donald Trump himself kicked it up a notch. He called on the protesters to march to the Capitol and fight to overturn the election result.
But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help, we're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Look at what followed. Donald Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Congress. The outer ring of security around the building was breached. The mob forced its way inside, entering the area where Joe Biden is supposed to take oath 2 weeks from now. They were literally banging the doors of the Congress. Look at this. That's how they made their way in, by smashing windows and doors. Some of them were carrying guns. They clashed with the cops, overwhelming the police with their sheer numbers. One woman protester was shot inside. Medical help was called in, but she could not survive. A total of 4 people died in this violence. More than 50 have been arrested. And there are more people who could face legal action, considering what they did inside the U.S. Congress. Some rioters, and we'll not call them protesters anymore, rioters entered the chamber where lawmakers were supposed to certify the election result. Agents inside the chamber tried to block the entrance with furniture. The officers were ready to open fire. As some people took shelter inside the galleries, one lawmaker shared a video from inside.
We were just told that there has been tear gas in the rotunda, and we're being instructed to each of us get gas masks that are under our seats.
The tear gas failed to stop the mob. They said they're taking back their country. They believe that voter fraud did happen in the election, and the leaders who hold office, especially the Democrats, are trying to steal the election from Donald Trump. Listen to some of these voices.
Trump is a leader. He stands for the free world. He stands for our rights, and if I were in his shoes, I would do the same thing.
Support Donald Trump, the President of the United States, because I believe what he believes in. I believe in freedom. I believe in our rights. And I think the new government that we're going to bring in here is going to take those away.
I am convinced that Trump actually won the election, and there was enough cheating and fraud that has been brushed away that they don't want to hear about. We just want to stop the steal of the election.
The matter was getting out of hand. Joe Biden decided to appear before the press, and he asked Donald Trump to intervene.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege, to storm the Capitol, to smash windows, to occupy offices, the floor of the United States Senate, rummaging through desks, on the Capitol, on the House of Representatives, threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest, it's insurrection.
Minutes later, Donald Trump released a video message. He asked the protesters, the rioters, to go home. He kept saying that the election was stolen from him. The National Guard was called in. These are the reserve soldiers who are part of the U.S. Army and the Air Force. The authorities struggled for more than 3 hours to clear the Capitol. In the evening, the lawmakers returned to the House. Mike Pence affirmed Joe Biden as the winner of the presidential election. Ahead of this session, the vice president had already declared that he will not side with Donald Trump. He released a letter that said, and I'm quoting here, "It is my considered judgment," this is Mike Pence, "it is my considered judgment that my oath to support and defend the Constitution constrains me from claiming unilateral authority to determine which electoral vote should be counted and which should not." He was Trump's running mate in this election. What about the protesters, the rioters? Who are these people who stormed the U.S. Capitol? They're Donald Trump supporters, members of the far-right and extremist groups, a whole lot of them with names you may not have heard of. One group came wearing the Keck flag. This flag mimics the Nazi war flag, and it's a banner of a fictional country. One group is called the 3%ers. This name comes from an inaccurate historical claim that only 3% of the Americans fought the British in the Revolutionary War. The 3%ers are considered to be a part of a militia movement. And then we have this man, you may have seen him, he's all over the internet now, wearing red, white and blue face paint and a helmet with a horn. He is Jake Angeli, a figure in the canon conspiracy theory movement. They believe that the election was indeed stolen and that Donald Trump is fighting a deep state cabal of pedophiles and human traffickers. Other supporters were seen with Confederate flags. This is the America the world hardly sees, but it exists. And now it is in the spotlight. And world leaders have expressed dismay, calling for a peaceful transfer of power. American leaders have expressed anger, both Republicans and Democrats. They're blaming Donald Trump for the riots, with one Republican lawmaker terming this a coup attempt. There has been a string of resignations too from the White House. 4 members of the Trump administration have resigned. This includes Deputy National Security Advisor Matt Pottinger and First Lady Melania Trump's Chief of Staff. Some lawmakers are now demanding Donald Trump's impeachment, even though he has less than 14 days left in office. What about Trump himself? Well, he's now promising a peaceful transition, whatever that means now. Trump's Deputy Chief for Communications tweeted a statement from the president. Why did Donald Trump not tweet it himself? That's because he can't. Social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram have temporarily blocked Donald Trump's accounts. In fact, Twitter is threatening a permanent suspension. So what's next for Donald Trump? The calls for impeachment are now growing, and lawmakers from both sides are demanding it. Earlier today, we spoke to Simon Marks in Washington, D.C. He gave us this assessment.
It is evident that President Trump certainly did not authorize the use of National Guard to protect the building before the protesters arrived, and even after they were there, a president who proved only too willing to unleash chemical agents against Black Lives Matter peaceful protesters when they were occupying Lafayette Square opposite the White House a few months ago, was resisting calls by Vice President Mike Pence and the congressional leadership for the National Guard to be deployed to deal with violent marauders who at that point were occupying and seizing control of the congressional building. So again, all of this fueling a growing sense among Democrats and some Republicans that President Trump has to pay some kind of sanction for all of this.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.